I mean, I worked hundreds and hundreds of crashes for my nearly 30 years on the patrol, and a lot of them were just nonsense stuff. But I just labeled it, and it's head and shoulders above all the rest. I call it the crash of my career. It occurred in late March of 2004. I'd been on the patrol, I think, 11 years when I got sent to this crash. And it involved a southbound van from Manitoba, Canada, and a northbound tractor trailer from Illinois. And they got tangled up in a bridge. They're the Dillon Creek Bridge at the 55-mile marker. And essentially, this van had come across the interstate and got struck head on by this tractor trailer. And I remember rolling up on it and seeing it and just trying to process visually, even before I got in my car, what I was looking at. It was a very, very horrific crash. And I've described it like this. I said it really almost looked more like a bomb had gone off than a car wreck. The force, which was so forceful, literally the engine came out of this Chrysler van and was laying in the interstate. People were ejected, multiple fatalities. It was a very, very horrific scene. And again, I just remember rolling up on it and looking at it, and I just thought to myself, oh my God, this is horrible. I mean, I hadn't even got out of my car, and I realized this was a horrific, horrific crash. 5 people were killed in that crash, 5 adults, and two married couples. Both of those women were pregnant, and then a third male. Technically, 7 lives were lost on that bridge that day. These were families, young families, young people on a trip coming down I-29, and there's luggage, and I'm just trying to put together, what had happened, who does this involve, what resources do I need for help? But yeah, we just went to work. We just started doing what we needed to do.
When do you see hope?
Well, so in the interior of this van, there's a car seat. It was a little boy, and his name was Zdenko Bullard. His mom and dad were decedents. They were killed in the crash. Mom and dad were the registered owners. Dad was, neither mom nor dad were driving. They both were killed. Mom was pregnant at the time. Zdenko would have had a little brother or sister months after this, but tragically that was not to occur. Zdenko was the only survivor. Zdenko was the only child. It was 5 adults, 2 married couples, a third male single that didn't have a wife with him, and then Zdenko. Gosh, it would have been so much easier had we known his name at the front end of this, and had there been something put into place to where we could have known the identity of that little boy with regard to notifications and medical treatment that he might receive later. It worked out okay, but it just took longer. It took longer, and maybe it could have been more efficient, and it might have been. I mean, you could play out all these scenarios to the nth degree. What if that child has a horrific allergy, medicine allergy, and mom and dad aren't there to communicate that to responding medical staff or EMS or an emergency room staff? And they maybe give it a drug or something that doesn't work, or that is going to be adversarial to their health. So anything that you could somehow communicate on some type of device, a car seat, I mean, the chances are if it's going to happen outside the home, it's probably going to happen where we're traveling a driving culture, it's going to be in a car seat. That would be a great place to start, to have maybe something on a car seat. And if first responders were trained to look at something like a license plate or an inspection sticker, things that we or a seatbelt, we automatically look, and we're trained to look for certain things, even if that were to be, set into motion, and X amount of years down the road, every responding officer knows when you deal with a car seat, one of the first places you would look would be here, because this is where this information might be found, and whatever your circumstance is, whatever the scenario, whatever the incident is, you'd have some information to work with there, and it would certainly be helpful for those responding officers.